In the autumn of 965, following the Byzantine conquest of Crete and Cyprus, and the defeat of Islamic forces in Cilicia, Bulgarian emissaries arrived at the court of Emperor Nikephoros Phocas II. Their objective was to request the continuation of the tribute that Constantinople had been paying to the Bulgarian Tsar as a guarantee for the enduring peace established after Tsar Simeon's death in 927. However, the empire's circumstances had significantly changed over the past 50 years. Instead of agreeing to the demand, Emperor Nikephoros, angered by what he perceived as an audacious request, had the envoys physically punished and sent them back in disgrace. Additionally, he dispatched a small military force to dismantle several Bulgarian border outposts in Thrace. It amounted to a clear declaration of war, but Nikephoros Phocas' military forces were largely engaged in the east. Consequently, the emperor sought assistance from his allies to the north, the Kievan Rus, to launch an attack on the Bulgarians from the rear. Prince Sviatoslav, known for his martial prowess and previous victories over the Chazars, eagerly agreed to the alliance. In 968, he arrived along the Danube and easily defeated the Bulgarian forces sent to oppose him. Though he had to briefly return to Kiev in 969 to fend off a Pecheneg attack, he came back later in the year and swiftly took control of most of north and eastern Bulgaria. This led to the removal of Tsar Boris II, and Bulgaria was incorporated into Sviatoslav's expanding domain. The emperor's original strategy did not involve this turn of events. Nikephoros attempted unsuccessfully to forge an alliance with the Bulgarian. However, in late 969, he was assassinated, leaving his successor, John I Tzimiskes I, with the challenging task of dealing with the potentially more formidable adversary. Complicating matters, some Bulgarian nobles saw an opportunity to regain independence from the Byzantine influence by aligning with the Rus. Sviatoslav issued an ultimatum to the new emperor, demanding the evacuation of all European provinces and the restriction of the empire to Asia alone. In the spring of 970, a substantial Rus force invaded Thrace, plundering Philippopoli and advancing toward Constantinople. Faced with this threat, John had no choice but to respond. The emperor was not able to march immediately against the Rus, as a significant portion of the field units remained in the east, engaged in campaigns around Antioch and beyond. These efforts aimed at consolidating the gains made after the recent capture of Antioch by Nikephoros' forces. In response to the situation, Emperor John I Tzimiskes appointed Bardas Skleros and the experienced commander Patricios Peter to lead a small force. Their mission included conducting reconnaissance on enemy dispositions in the occupied territory, exercising the troops, and preventing widespread damage by enemy raiders on imperial territory. Additionally, Skleros and Peter were tasked with sending undercover spies, disguised in Bulgarian and Rus attire, deep into enemy-held territory. The objective was to gather intelligence on Sviatoslav's intentions and movements, providing crucial information to the Byzantines about the Rus leaders' plans and strategy. This strategic move aimed to prepare the Eastern Roman forces for the upcoming confrontation with the Rus and to ensure that they were well informed about the evolving situation in the occupied territory. Soon after learning of the presence of the imperial army, the Rus leader dispatched a substantial force comprising both Rus and Bulgarian troops, along with a formidable detachment of Pechenegs, temporarily aligned through promises of plunder. This force aimed to drive the Romans away, bypassing the heavily fortified city of Adrianople and redirecting toward Constantinople. The exact size of the Rus army remains uncertain. John Skylitzes suggests it constituted the entire Rus force, an astounding 308,000 men, while Leo the Deacon reports a detachment of over 30,000 men. In contrast, the Russian primary chronicle indicates the entire Rus army under Sviatoslav at about 30,000, with only 10,000 Rus facing 100,000 Byzantines at Arcadiopolis. Regardless, it is evident that the Byzantines were significantly outnumbered, and the Rus force at Arcadiopolis included Bulgarians, along with allied Pecheneg and Magyar contingents. Bardas swiftly assembled a force of elite soldiers numbering between 10 to 12,000 and moved to confront the Rus. The encounter took place near Arcadiopolis, approximately 80 kilometers west of Constantinople. The two main Byzantine accounts offer different versions of the battle's preliminary actions. Leo the Deacon states that Skleros sent a scouting detachment led by Patricios John I Tzimiskes, engaging in battle after only a day. In contrast, Skylitz's later chronicle asserts that Bardas and his men remained within the walls of Arcadiopolis for several days while the Rus camped nearby. Despite repeated challenges from the Rus for a battle, Bardas refused to engage. According to Skylitzes, the Rus began to believe that the imperial army was afraid to face them. Consequently, they roamed the countryside for plunder, neglected their camp defense, and spent their nights in reckless revelry. Bardas, after leaving the city, strategically split his force into 3 divisions. 2 of these divisions discreetly positioned themselves in the rough scrub and woodlands flanking the path towards the enemy's location. Bardas, a strategic mind with courage in his veins, took command of the 3rd Division numbering a mere 2,000 to 3,000 men and led them to daring maneuver, aiming for a surprise assault on the formidable Pecheneg contingent within the Rus forces. The odds were starkly against them, but Bardas relied on the element of surprise and the disciplined training of his men. Bardas and his division struck like a tempest, catching the Pechenegs off guard. The clash of steel echoed through the battlefield as the Byzantine forces engaged their adversaries in a fierce, close-quarter combat. Though vastly outnumbered, Bardas and his men fought with a determination that spoke of their rigorous training. As the battle raged on, the flickering flames of conflict casting an eerie glow on the faces of warriors locked in mortal combat. Swords clashed, arrows soared, and the earth shook with the thunderous hoofbeats of charging steeds. It seemed, at times, that the small Byzantine force might succumb to the overwhelming might of the Rus. In the midst of the chaos, Bardas skillfully orchestrated a feigned withdrawal, luring the Rus forces away from their encampment. The fortune of battle swung back and forth like a pendulum, and the outcome hung in the balance. At a critical moment, a Pecheneg warrior, fueled by the fervor of battle, charged Bardas himself. The clash of their weapons rang out, and a sword blow struck Bardas's helmet. Miraculously, the metal absorbed the impact, sparing the general from harm. In that dire moment, Bardas's young brother, Constantine, emerged as his guardian angel, swiftly dispatching the Pecheneg assailant with a lethal stroke. The air hung heavy with tension as Bardas, the Byzantine general, orchestrated the final phase of his cunning plan. With the prearranged signal given, his entire division began a strategic withdrawal, creating the illusion of vulnerability. However, concealed in the rough scrub and woodlands on either side of the track, the 2 divisions lying in ambush prepared themselves for the decisive moment. As the unsuspecting enemy forces, comprising Pechenegs, Rus, and Bulgars, pursued the supposedly retreating Byzantine troops, they fell right into Bardas' trap. In a coordinated assault, the concealed divisions emerged from their hiding places, striking the enemy from both flanks and the rear. The battlefield erupted into chaos as the Byzantine forces, once appearing on the brink of defeat, now launched a devastating counterattack. Within minutes, the Pechenegs, caught off guard and suffering a savage maul, turned and fled in disarray. The Rus and Bulgars, who had been hastening to catch up with their fleeing allies, found themselves ensnared in the panic and chaos of the rout. The once confident enemy forces now faced heavy casualties, as the Byzantines turned the tide in a swift and unexpected reversal of fortune. The sounds of battle were replaced by the desperate cries of the vanquished, and the triumphant cheers of the Byzantine warriors. Amidst the chaos, a contemporary chronicler noted that the Romans endured losses of around 550 men and many wounded, along with a considerable number of horses falling victim to the Pecheneg archery. However, the toll on the combined enemy force was far more severe, with many thousands meeting their demise. The decisive victory not only bought Emperor John valuable time, but also provided crucial insights into the composition, morale, and combat prowess of the enemy. Armed with this intelligence, John I Tzimiskes I would go on to leverage his newfound knowledge in the campaigns that followed, securing further triumphs for the Byzantine Empire. The battle near Arcadiopolis would be remembered not just as a military triumph, but as a masterclass in strategy, deception, and the art of turning the tide of war in one's favor. This brief encounter, although the available sources provide limited details on the order of battle for both sides, offers insights into the potential of a well-trained and effectively led Eastern Roman force to prevail against a significantly larger enemy. Bardas Skleros demonstrated the capabilities of his troops, showcasing their discipline and training during a careful withdrawal and feigned retreat. Operating under challenging conditions, heavily outnumbered, and facing constant fire from accurate enemy archery, The Byzantine forces displayed remarkable esprit de corps, training, and morale characteristic of the armies of that era. However, despite the victory, the Byzantines were unable to capitalize on their success or pursue the remnants of the Rus Army. Bardas Foka's revolt in Asia Minor forced Bardas Skleros and his men to be redeployed to address the internal threat. Meanwhile, Sviatoslav confined his forces to the north of the Balkan Mountains. In the following spring, with Foka's rebellion quelled, Emperor John I Tzimiskes himself led his army north into Bulgaria. The Byzantines captured the Bulgarian capital, Prelude, securing the Bulgarian Tsar Boris II and trapping the Rus in the fortress of Dorostalin. Over the course of a 3-month siege and a series of pitched battles outside the city wall, Sviatoslav acknowledged defeat and relinquished Bulgaria. The Rus forces abandoned the region, marking the end of their presence in the contested territory. The events surrounding this campaign underscored the strategic acumen and military prowess of the Eastern Roman Empire, highlighting their ability to overcome formidable odds when led by capable commanders and well-trained forces.